I heard so many LinkedIn scams that the people aren't real and they're promising things or it's just not real. I don't remember what it is. You can either pull it up on your phone app or you can just look at the browser extension.
So you've worked in some of these training manuals. How do you make it so the boomer that's got a couple years left can digest it and also make it interesting for the 22-year-old that just showed up?
You have to know your audience. So I try to know every time.
Welcome back to the Tech Jobber Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Schwenk. I have a very exciting guest today. I started this podcast because I kept meeting cool, interesting people in Miami that were also in tech, and I said, this should be a podcast. We actually just met today. I found Caitlin. I was looking for some reaction reels, and I came across this girl with a massive amount of followers doing cybersecurity reels. And I said, well, forget about reaction. I just want to interview her. So, Caitlin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. So excited to be here.
Yeah, so we have a lot to talk about. I want to talk about your advice, because I get asked all the time about how do I get into cybersecurity, any advice, give me the first steps. We're going to get into all that, but let's go into your background because it is extremely impressive. You have Big Four, she was at TikTok. So how'd you get started?
Yeah, so I started my TikTok because I had a very weird way of getting started in cybersecurity. I actually did aerospace mechanical engineering in undergrad and my master's. Wow. So I like to say I'm like a glorified problem solver. And I did internships all over at amazing companies. So I worked at Abbott Labs and doing pharmaceuticals and supply chains. I worked at GE doing alternative energies, specifically in board mounted power devices. And I worked at Chevron in oil and gas, obviously. And when I finished my master's, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this for the rest of my life. I'm still not sure which route I want to go. So I had a cousin that was in consulting, and she was like, you should do technology consulting. You can kind of try out different things, stay here for a couple years, learn a lot, and then move out. And I was like, that sounds great. So when I was interviewing for technology consulting, one of the companies, which was EY, had said that they had just started their cybersecurity practice. And in my head, I was like, well, she doesn't know this, but I'm terrible at coding. And I only also totally thought cybersecurity was just hacking.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'm a yes girl. I love to try out different opportunities. And so I was like, yeah, sure. I know this is going to be big one day, so I might as well try it. And if I don't like it, I can always go into something else. And I literally learned everything I did on the job. And that led me to, I worked at EY for 6 years. I actually ended up going over to the UK and specializing in data privacy. So I don't know if anyone is in Europe, but I specialize in GDPR, which is their privacy regulation over there. And then I moved back here, worked at a global law firm and helped build out their cybersecurity and data privacy practice. And then I eventually started my TikTok because I was like, you know what, I'm really wanting to impact more people. Teach people about cybersecurity, what cybersecurity is. Like you said, there's so many questions on what is cyber. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to just start an educational channel. And I did not think that it was niche enough, which is really weird because I know that cybersecurity is big, but it's this, we'll see where this goes. And then it just blew up. And then TikTok found me and actually offered me a job at TikTok. So crazy. And then I ended up leading their global cybersecurity advocacy team, which just basically means globally I led cybersecurity training and awareness, and then advocated on behalf of TikTok throughout the news and stuff. So great. It's been a wild ride.
Well, so going back to the EY job, the Big Four, why don't you tell people a little bit what that entails? Were we talking how much were you making? How much travel was involved? Why don't you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so EY, when I signed up, was 100% travel. They specifically said most consultings, especially at Big Four, when you're staff, you have to agree to most of the time be 100% travel. So I was traveling every week, but I got to work on the most incredible projects. And I first started out in large scale cyber transformation projects, which basically means we go and look at a company, we look at every part of cybersecurity. So there's access management, data protection, training and awareness, all these different areas, and we assess them on where they're at. And then we give them an overall score, and then we'd help them, we'd give them a roadmap on how to implement it. And usually they hire us back to help implement that roadmap.
Right.
But I was traveling all the time. I think my entry level actually had a lot higher, obviously Chevron offered me a full-time job and that was 100 plus. Accenture had offered me a full-time job that was at 90, but I actually took UIs, which was 75 after my master's, which is crazy because I had like a master's in engineering. But I knew that it was going to go somewhere, and I really, really trusted like EY and like my learning and development at that company. Specifically, it was all the people I had met during that interview process. So I think I started at 75. I think the next year, like I barely went to like 90. And then it just skyrocketed. So consulting is actually, I like highly recommend consulting to overachievers because you learn so much. You're literally thrown into the deep end. You're thrown into the hot water. And for me, that's the best way for me to learn. And I like grew and like basically climbed the corporate ladder, got to the top, and then I was like, now what? But yeah, I mean, cybersecurity, you could make a ton of money. I know at TikTok, I've been making when I moved to the UK, I was not making six figures because the UK, the pay is terrible. Yeah. Absolutely awful. Technically. For
recruiting too.
Yeah. Technically, I was making a lot for the UK, but I was making equivalent of like 75,000 US dollars at that point. And that was after 4 years of working. So I really like took like a 30 or 40-ish% pay cut. And then I got back and I was making like over 200 plus. Yeah. And at the law firm. And then I went to TikTok and I was making a lot. A lot. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
So,
more than 200. A lot more than 200.
Well, so what does that look like? I always talk about a lot of big tech jobs will go straight cash, big time money to lure you in, and then kind of switch you to kind of a salary plus stock kind of compensation. Yeah. What did you have?
So I actually asked for a normal salary. So I had 200 plus in salary and then a lot in stock. Okay. Because I was like very adamant that TikTok was going to do well. Like I'm not going to go to a company that I don't have faith in. And I obviously saw the power of the platform because I was on the platform, and I think it's such an incredible platform. So I actually asked a lot in stock. So I had over six figures in like stock and bonuses and extra stuff, just from that. So I had over 200 in base, and then an extra. Six figures.
And then you're just racking up the stock options every year. And then
they do that 4-year program. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And how long were you there?
I was only there for a year.
Okay. So how much stock did you end up?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. Okay.
It's okay though.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
So, but just backtracking to the law firm, what type of cyber issues did they face that you were kind of spearheading?
Yeah, so they were geniuses, and they're like, you know what, whenever there's a data breach, we're the first people they call. They're lawyers. They're trying to figure it out. And so they started to think, okay, let's start a consulting arm of this. Okay. So we can say, hey, we're coming in, we're going to advise you legally, but here's our consultants to come figure out what actually happened. So as consultants, we actually worked with another company too to do like more of the digital forensics behind like what's happening with the hack. But then we're also, I was leading more of like the data privacy and cybersecurity aspects. So either we came in after and we looked at how it happened and we came up with a roadmap and like told them how to fix it, and or we were helping them with all of the new CCPA had just come out, which was like the California Consumer Privacy Act. And there's a lot of regulations and standards that your company has to abide by if there's a breach. And a lot of companies just don't have the manpower to do that. So a lot of we were like kind of the extended arm of, okay, let's make sure you're abiding by all these new state laws and regulations and or global laws and regulations depending on the company, and we'll help you, respond to your consumers, give them the options that they need, respond to any state regulators about the breach. So we kind of did a lot of like things like that.
So what does that look like? Okay, I'm a Fortune 500. How do they find out they've been breached? So the hackers say like, hey, we got you, here's our demands. Is that basically how it goes down, or do they just kind of see their customer data appearing on the dark web or something?
It's kind of a mix of both. A lot of times, most of the times we dealt with like ransomware. So like they would get like their CEO or someone, or even their CISO, which is a Chief Information Security Officer. I know a lot of people don't realize that that's a thing. Or like CIO, Chief Information Officer, they'd get, or Chief Data Officer would get like a ransomware email type of thing.
What does that say?
Basically like, we got access to this data, give us this amount of money sent to this account or we're going to leak it. And the funny thing is like, you don't actually know if you give them that money if they're gonna leak it anyways. Sure. Because we're trying to figure out who's actually behind it, what their motive is, and like why they would even do it. most of the times it's leaked anyways. So I think, I mean, obviously I'm not like a legal person. I think most of the times you recommend it to not even pay it and just consider it.
Just say, okay,
leaked.
we'll deal with
the other
the
thing
bad
is,
press.
Yeah, unless they like stole the data, locked it, and like it's like a healthcare company or like sometimes we saw hospitals and they're like, you can't have access to any of your data until you pay. At that point, it's like worth paying because you can't just like shut down a hospital.
Right.
So, I mean, it really depended on the situation and all of that, but it was nuts. And I couldn't speak a lot of times about the cases I was working on because it's not made public.
Yeah.
So, and even now, I think there's some NDAs that I signed. I'm not even sure if they're like still like legal.
Right.
But yeah, there was.
We won't give any company names.
Yeah, but even at EY, like I came in, I like was there when the Target breach happened, which was a huge issue, and then the Experian data breach. I came in after the Experian data breach. I got to see really cool things like Nike was having issues with a lot of Chinese bots coming in whenever they had the product launches or shoe launches coming in, taking their entire inventory, and then all of a sudden they're sold out, and then they resell that on the market for like hundreds and thousands of dollars more. So what they would do is like we'd come in and we'd figure out how to like trap the bots. It's called honeypotting.
Yeah.
And so we'd figure out a way to honeypot the bots, which means that we're trapping them. So the bots get stuck in this one area where they actually can't buy the products, and then it's like a normal launch date. So it's really cool. I mean, people don't realize like all the things about cyber that you can, literally fit in everyday life.
Yeah, I mean, all the products and companies you deal with, there's these wars going on on the dark web and wherever that most people have no idea is even happening.
Yeah, it's insane, and it's so interesting. I mean, every day is like different.
Yeah.
And every company is different. And
so TikTok, what are we talking? I mean, what can you tell us about battles you were fighting as far as security?
Yeah, so I mean, there's like a huge target on TikTok's back in not just the U.S., like around the globe. Obviously, in my personal opinion, I think every social media. So if anyone watched the congressional hearings, like some of my job was to help prep for that as well, and like make sure that the right people knew the right things. But a lot of the congressional hearing, one was about how bad social media is to kids.
Right.
Which is not a TikTok thing, that's in everything.
Yeah.
That's not just TikTok. And then the other thing is like, your data's already out there. Like everyone's data's out there.
Yeah.
If people want to know, if China wants to know, if Russia wants to know, if the US wants to know, and to be honest, the US, I think, is the worst.
Yeah.
Like, they literally, and we were like, oh, well, China has our data. And I'm like, okay, so does Facebook, and Meta is like, it's absurd. Like, it makes no sense. Like, they have everything. Yeah. And it's like, you got to pick your poison. But for me at TikTok, I really valued the platform because I saw the value in it. And then, I think everything was, for me, I work in data privacy. So the reason why I worked there and I felt comfortable there is they have an entire US arm. They're partnered with Oracle. All the data centers are in the US.
Yeah.
And they have been very, very good at complying with like basically any issue that the US has brought up. Actually better than Meta. Like they're like, what do you need? We'll give it to you. Like, just let us know. And so I think in terms of social media, I think all social media apps should be banned on any work device. If you're like at a corporate thing, 100%. Not just TikTok. But yeah, I don't think people realize like your data is out there. If they want your data, they can have it. How are you managing it? And who are you allowing to have it? And like why? I don't think it's a China thing. But yeah, so back to your question, the main thing was responding to like data regulators, because there'd be some like viral, we heard TikTok does this, and it'd be like in Australia, and like then all of a sudden their regulators would come and be like, prove to us that you don't have this. And so it's just like literally fighting fires around the globe. I was getting like no sleep.
Yeah, and those hearings are always such a frightening moment to see how little your senators and Congress people actually know.
They know nothing.
Yeah, they make themselves look like idiots by kind of tripping over themselves in these hearings, trying to make Zuckerberg or any of the heads of the social media companies look stupid, and they end up looking stupid themselves. Right. So where do you see TikTok going, real quick? I mean, you see it being sold off the parent company to the U.S.? I mean, what do you see going on?
Originally, after the hearing, I was like, maybe they're going to sell it. I don't think it's going to get sold.
Yeah.
Unless it's like absolutely needed, but the U.S. government hasn't really forced that yet. They originally were saying that they were forcing it. This is the other thing too. I think a lot of the main issues that were brought up by Congress, minus some of the questions about Wi-Fi and weird stuff, because I watched that like a million times. I mean, that was part of my job, is like respond, and like even after I was like working with PR and media to like come up with, you know, sheets on, okay, these are the questions that he didn't know how to answer and here are the actual answers. But a lot of the questions were around China's only showing our kids dance videos where they're showing their kids educational videos and they're like sabotaging us from within.
Right.
First of all, China's a communist country. So they have access to and control to everything that anyone sees in that country. Sure. We are the US. We don't do that. That's like the whole point of the US. Right. We are free. So unless we want to start coming up with laws for kids saying, okay, anyone that's under 16 on the app only gets educational content, which we can do as a country, technically, then we shouldn't be restricting our kids from anything at this point in time. Because it's the same for Facebook and Instagram. Right. Like, or YouTube. Like, we're not restricting them, and like their Instagram or TikTok is just the best at the algorithm. Like, everyone is trying to steal TikTok's algorithm because it knows exactly what you want to watch.
Yeah, and their goal is not to indoctrinate. Their goal is to keep you glued to the platform. It's time on the
business,
platform, right?
Yes.
So if you are a child who's into whatever
cats,
that's all they're going to show you. It's not because they want to indoctrinate you with cats. They want you on the platform.
Exactly.
Because then they get more ad dollars, and you probably go into their business model more than me, but.
Like, we don't go and, sorry to cut you off, we don't like go to McDonald's and like get mad at them for making unhealthy food. Like, it's a business. Like, that you go in knowing that that's what it is. Right. You know, TikTok is excellent at feeding you videos based on the algorithm, based on what you want. Mm-hmm. And so if your kids are watching these weird videos, I would start questioning your parenting styles maybe, because like they're obviously watching it from like, that's what they want to watch. Yeah. They're watching it for a long period of time.
And it started somewhere. Like,
it started somewhere. There's some nugget of truth.
They searched for something connected to that weird video.
Exactly.
And now they're being shown, oh, this is what they want? Okay, hey, we'll just double down and keep showing them more.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about your move after TikTok at the end, but let's talk about the point of this podcast, the careers section.
Yeah.
I get people asking me literally every day, I want to get into cyber. What do I do? What areas to go in? What should I focus on? Figure I'd ask you because you know better than me. So let's say someone has no experience, either coming out of college or making a shift in careers. What do you recommend they study and go into? What fields? What is AI going to impact? Let's hear it.
So I'll start with like what fields I think are like up and coming or like are already here and I know are here to stay. So data protection and privacy is a massive one because there's continuing to have more and more privacy laws that people need to abide by. Third-party management is a huge one because there's so many people that are getting hacked and they're third parties. So third-party management means you're going to a company and you're assessing any time the company works with another company and shares data with another company. Okay. For example, like a lot of people work with Amazon or Facebook, right? Mm-hmm. And because you can like connect through Facebook. So there's some way of sharing data between Facebook and that company. Yeah. How are you managing that relationship? What happens if Facebook gets hacked? Who's responsible? Who's like the owner of the data? Like, how are you interacting? How are you sending the data back and forth? Is it secure? So there's like a whole aspect of like, how are you managing the third parties that have access to your data? Yeah. Or if you're accessing their data. And the issue gets even bigger because, I mean, we can see the last few years that third parties have been huge. So there's like a SolarWinds breach, which was like a huge thing. Or there's a MoveIt, which was like a file transfer system that so many companies use that got breached. But because it's a file transfer system, the amount of documents that were breached because they breached that third party. So like, how is your company going to be able to protect themselves from a third party if there was a breach? So those two are like massive to me. AI, I think, is really interesting. I think data analytics, but it's not really cybersecurity, but I think data analytics is massive. I think there's so much that you can do with it. Obviously, I think cyber training and awareness is the next like round of like big things for cybersecurity.
Sure.
I'm obviously biased, but I really truly believe you're only as strong as your weakest link. And over the last 10 plus years, I've seen so many companies throw so much money at like softwares and technologies that end up either being shelfware or not being used correctly. And it doesn't even matter because their biggest the weakest link is their people. And there's a lot of really outdated training programs right now that no one wants to listen to like a training like on cybersecurity. So like, how are you making it more fun and relatable for people to actually want to watch and like care?
Yeah, and so, you've worked in some of these training manuals. How do you make it so the boomer that's got a couple years left can digest it and also make it interesting for the 22-year-old that just showed up?
Yeah. I mean, you have to know your audience. So I try to like know every time, like, okay, this video is specifically for like my mom or like my grandma. And then like, then I create my scripts according to that. And I think it just coming up with short form videos that are like, again, bite-sized, relatable, digestible, and like clear and concise for a specific audience. What we are currently doing right now in cyber training is like, we need to make sure it hits every compliance aspect and it has all these keywords that like no one actually knows. It's like really, really bogged down and heavy. And I agree that there should be like compliance check the box training, but there also just needs to be like awareness, like short, funny, relatable things that
you'll remember.
Right. Like it's sent to you like a couple times a month that you're like, oh, I actually want to watch this stupid little video, you know? So yeah, that's that part.
Okay. How would someone go about getting into each of those?
Yeah.
What's the first step? The
first step is, and this is what a lot of people do wrong, because they think cybersecurity is like a one size fits all. And what they don't realize is cybersecurity is like saying, oh, I want to major in science. There's like so many areas of science that you can major in.
Right.
So, and there's a lot of like really terrible boot campy courses out there, or like programs that are like, you can get a certification, and like the certification is great. It shows that you're willing to learn, but they're very, very broad and they don't help you get the skills that you actually need for a job. So you need to understand what area of cybersecurity you want to get into. And I actually have like a free, and I've had this for like a couple of years, it's in the middle of getting revamped, but I have a free intro to cybersecurity course that goes through every single cybersecurity domain, the skills that are needed, the type of job that you might get after, the certifications that you might want to receive. And then from that domain, start specializing and niching down. So like, so I always say specialize, skill up. So get the skills necessary for that specialty. Socialize. So like, I don't think people realize also you need to sell yourself, unfortunately. And in tech, you don't want to. Like a lot of us are introverts. Like we don't want to like be show-offs or whatever. And we want to just kind of stick to ourselves and like code and be behind a screen. Right now, it's really, really important for you to kind of start tooting your own horn. Like LinkedIn is extremely important. So when I say like socialize and share, like you need to, go into different kind of groups. Like there's LinkedIn groups of those types of people. And again, my training course kind of goes through all the different groups that you could join for each area. And then you also just need to like share all your experiences and keep sharing and like getting your name out there, and people would start like interacting and realizing who you are, and then just like make connections. Yeah. So it's like really 4 steps: specialize, skill up, socialize, and share. And so someone says, I want to get into cyber, and I always say like, all right, well, what area? And they're well, I don't know. So your course would kind of direct them. Ooh, okay, that's not really for me. That's interesting. How would I? Okay, now I get these skills. Okay. Exactly, and then there's so many different skills needed. Like you asked previously, what should they like learn? And it literally depends on like where they're going into, because like we need every type of individual. Like we even need like psychologists when we're thinking about the attack and pen style, because we're trying to understand the hacker's mind. Yeah. So like we need like everyone. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, and like we need like type A people that are like very audity for governance, risk, and compliance to make sure that you're compliant with all the cybersecurity laws. And there's just so many types of people. We need literally every type of person. Yeah, and with the rise of these public hacks that are just PR nightmares for companies, you see this continuing to be a rising field, correct? Yeah. Okay. I mean, we even need PR and marketing. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about another one of your specialties, personal security. Yeah.
And I have a lot of questions. I'm just going to ask questions that I've had.
Go for it.
And hopefully it's useful for everyone. But what are some of the lowest hanging fruit mistakes that I'm making, everyone's making?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
I hate saying this one. It's passwords.
Yeah.
It's just passwords.
So what do most people do with the passwords? Like, what's the dumb mistake that most people make? Same
to this
password?
day, it's still like the most common passwords are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yeah.
6. I think it goes to 6. And or they've had the same password for years and they add like an exclamation or like a 1, 2, 3 or.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is that once your password is out on the black market, like hackers can go in and steal those credentials and then run an algorithm that adds like all of the normal like add-ons or before or after. And within minutes, they could probably hack it if you've been using like the same base password.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so passwords, what do you recommend people do?
Yeah, so passphrases are like fun, like the hungry hippo ate my mom, or I don't know. I just literally don't know how that came into my mind.
Sure.
But like a long passphrase that you're going to remember that has like, uppercase and lowercase. A lot of, and different passwords for every account, which I know sound absurd and most people aren't going to remember, but like it's really, really important because again, once a password's leaked on the black market, like you just.
It won't be hard to
Dark web.
decipher. It's not like World War II codes that they're deciphering here, right?
Yeah, no, it's
going to be one tweak.
It's a clear text, and they just run an algorithm to have like all the 10,000 versions that you could possibly do.
It's like okay, this needs a special character and a number, so we'll just put exclamation 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so passphrases.
Yeah, or a password manager, which is what I like.
That's what I want to talk to you about because I've looked into password managers.
Just don't do LastPass, please.
Okay, don't do LastPass. Which one do you recommend? Because I've looked at those password managers, but then, obviously it does a pretty complex password for everything, but I'm just always afraid that, sometimes it's like, I go on my phone and it's like, it's not saved. What is it? And it's just going to be a nightmare pulling it up. So
yeah.
Which one do you recommend?
So I currently use 1Password. I recommend that one.
Okay.
That's a classic one. There's a lot of new password managers on the scene, and it honestly, I really also enjoy like Keeper Security. I think it used to be called Keeper Pass, but I think now they changed it to Keeper Security. They've won like a lot of awards recently on how they're storing and securing your passwords as well. To your point of like, oh, it's really hard for me to remember. A lot of them have like apps. So like, I don't remember any of mine, but like I literally just go on the app anytime I want, and you just search it and copy it and paste it. So it's like, and then they also have browser extensions for Google browsers specifically. So if you ever like are on your computer and you're like, I don't remember what it is, you can either pull it up on your phone app, or you can just look at the browser extension and like copy and paste it into whatever website or app that you need.
Okay,
so it makes it a lot easier.
So basically, get a good password manager, commit to it across all of your devices.
Yeah.
Install the apps, install the extensions, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, and then there was a recent, like they called it the mother of all data breaches. Basically, someone combined all of the data breaches in the past and put it all together.
Wow.
Like recently, like a week or two ago. And because of that, like I can't stress enough to switch your passwords.
Yeah.
Because if one or two of your passwords, I would guarantee, I mean, there's been, like even my old school accounts have all been breached, and so there's at least like 15 to 20 of my old passwords out there, which means that like they can come up with a bajillion different algorithms to try to find all the other ones. So just change your passwords.
Yeah. And what
especially
about,
for banking.
What about like the Social Security, like LifeLock and stuff like that?
I would recommend LifeLock. I mean, I don't use that. I do monitor my credit, and I actively monitor like all of my accounts because I feel like I have a big target on my back, so I'm a little scared.
Right. We got her. Oh, look at
Yeah. I also use McAfee or McAfee. Everyone says it differently. There's a lot of like really good services like Guardio as well. Like there's like antivirus software that you can download. And then there's also like services like Guardio and stuff that like track and monitor if there's like a new data breach of your data.
Yeah.
So all of them are like really, really good to use.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of universal for everyone. Let's talk about protecting maybe an older relative or something. What are some things? you would recommend? Because they'll click.
I know.
Don't click, but they'll click on everything.
Poor people. So the first thing I actually do is, for me, like I try to delete their like personal information off the data brokers. So like I use a company, and I partner with a company called Delete Me, because if hackers get enough information about them, and it's very easy to get, especially in the U.S., like through the data brokers, then it's really they're an easy target. Yeah. So that's the first thing, is I try to remove almost all the data I can off of them using Delete Me, because they basically like go through every single data broker, and there's like hundreds and thousands of them. Sure. And they do that every 2 months, and they like delete their data. Wow. And they send you a report every 2 months on like what's still pending,
what was exposed, and what they deleted.
Wow. And then the other thing I do is I literally just like talk to them. It's similar to like kids, right? Like you need to like leave an open form of like communication with your parents and stuff, just so they feel comfortable being like, I'm not sure about this, like before they just like actively click on it. Yeah. I think that's like the best, is like communicating and being like, if you get this, like please let me know, and so I can like figure it out for you, and then like monitor their stuff too. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you even you think it's only like, oh, someone's dumb grandma, but that kind of, not to get political, that like kind of sunk the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016. Yeah. Because John Podesta clicked on a phishing email. Yeah. And so even people at the highest level of government are making these dumb mistakes. Yeah. And it just exposed all of Hillary's emails. And, right. Maybe won Trump the presidency. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, even romance scams are like really big in like the elderly community, because they are like the easiest to trick, which is really sad. But so what's that? So it's like someone that's pretending to be someone else, and they like reach out to, they're usually like on a dating, well, I don't know if, depends on the dating apps. They're usually on dating apps. So if like your elderly is like, not elderly, but like, I hate saying elderly because my parents are over this age, but sure. 65 plus. Yeah. Are like very big targets for romance scams. So like they'll go on like Hinge or Tinder or any of the dating apps, and they'll like match with someone, and then they'll like talk to them a lot, and then the person will start asking them for money. Right. And then like they get like suckered in, and it's like a psychology thing. It's very crazy. Yeah. But also like old, yeah, it's just a lot. I could go in more, but we're gonna stop. Okay, so romance scams. So if you're, it could be really anyone, but yeah, someone who might not be aware of these things, is you find out they're on the dating app. So for romance scams, I actually tell people there's a few websites like one's called PimEyes. I forgot all the other ones. If you go on my page, you can find them. But you can literally like take a screenshot of the photo and reverse Google image search basically, and see if that person's real, or if it's like, a lot of times it's like these models, like these people aren't like, right, but your parents don't know. Yeah. So yeah. I would reverse, like if anything seems off, if your parents are like saying, oh, I met this guy, he's amazing, and sends you a picture, like I would reverse Google image search, or like go on PimEyes and see any account related to those pictures. Wow. You wouldn't even think about like I've saved a few of my friends' parents from that. Weirdly enough. So okay, so let's so those are like the most basic things, right? But what are some of the things that even trip up people that you're like, oh, I thought you knew that you knew better than that? Well, yeah, I always say like use a VPN. Okay. Like, so don't randomly plug your computers and phones into like, especially airport plugs, like that's a big no-no. Right. For USB specifically. And then if you're on public Wi-Fi, please just remember that it is public. Like, take that like very literally. Like anyone can get in and see what you're doing pretty much. And I don't have like the time to like go through how that all happens, but just know that it's public. So unless you have a VPN, like don't do anything like confidential on like a Starbucks Wi-Fi. It's nuts. Or like the free airport Wi-Fi. Like never, unless you have a VPN. Yeah. So I use ExpressVPN. I love it. I also use Nord. They're all good. I don't know any like bad VPN really, but definitely use a VPN because it encrypts data going back and forth. If you're using public Wi-Fi, which a lot of us do. Yeah, a lot of people right here, they're set up at a coffee shop down there. How many are just exposing whatever they're doing? Yeah. And a lot of times people, like, it's similar to what we did with the honeypotting for Nike. A lot of people honeypot, like, and set up fake Wi-Fis And
Right.
like literally we'll have like a sign that's like Wi-Fi with like, or like it's just open. And people just go on open Wi-Fis without any passwords and they don't realize like literally someone can be tracking every single thing that they do on the web.
Wow. So dummy Wi-Fi's too. Okay.
Yeah.
And what about from cleaning up some corporate messes? Was that more of just clicking on email links and things like that?
Yeah, at the end of the day, like I said, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and unfortunately, people are our weakest link. And so, phishing is like a huge thing.
Yeah.
There's not. I hate saying this word, but I'm gonna say it because they like have phishing. Phishing is like email scams. Smishing is text message scams, and now they have this new thing. It's officially called quishing.
Ooh.
It's awful, and I never want to say it again. But it's the QR code scans because everyone started going to QR code during COVID. But the issue is you don't know what website it's actually taking
Right.
you. And everyone just like mindlessly let me just go to this website, and then who knows? It could completely be fake, and that's
that could
actually
steal all of your data.
it happens
basically.
a lot.
Oh my God.
So it's like then it redirects you to a website that looks like what you were supposed to be going to, but it's not the real website.
Yeah.
I think it just being mindful and aware of like, if you're having a weird gut feeling, if it looks funny, if it's urgent, that's the other thing. Like if I ever get an email that's like, you need to do this right now, I'm like, okay, this is questionable.
Right.
But
right.
like a lot of times there has been times where I almost do it and I'm like, wait, no, this is not right.
Yeah.
Like it even tricks me sometimes. So like it depends on like the moment in time that you get it and stuff. I'd just be very mindful of like urgent messages or emails.
And as far as QRs, what do you do to safeguard?
Oh, I just ask them for the website.
Okay. So if there's a menu on QR or anything like that, you'll ask the waiter for the website.
Yeah.
Okay. So you basically
I don't
no
use
QRs at all.
No, I
Okay.
get really freaked
There you
out by it. I mean, that's like going that's a lot. I mean, I would say normally, like, if you're going to, like, a random country and you just see, like, a random QR code of, like, extra tip or whatever, like, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I would just be very mindful of the QR code. Like, even on the back of my business card, I actually have a QR code. And when they scan it, it's like, oh, no, you potentially just scanned a malicious QR link.
Yeah.
Luckily, you follow me.
You shouldn't be making that mistake if you follow her.
Exactly.
Okay, what else? What are some odd other things that you've seen?
Oh man, there's so many things. I just don't like saying all the odd stuff because then people just start freaking out.
Yeah. What's one of the craziest ways people have exposed their data?
I mean, there's not like crazy ways. It's literally just phishing. Like they fall for every type of weird phishing scam.
Yeah, it's just.
And there's like people don't realize that there's like different types of phishing, right? There's like. We like to have a lot of terms in cybersecurity. There's like whaling, which means like you're like actively going for like the big dog, like a CEO or something, where you're like looking for them and then like looking at like all the information about them and then like specifically targeting like what they do. So like you know that they use Netflix and you know that they're whatever. So you have like more information.
So you email them Netflix.
Yeah. The other thing that people don't realize is there's a lot of scams on LinkedIn.
Okay, go into that.
So one of my first cybersecurity things I did was we were trying to do like physical kind of security and hacking and breaking in, but we also were trying to do like the whaling of companies. So we made a fake LinkedIn profile with like my friend's picture on it, and it's like a cute girl in cyber. We would add this like all the C-suite on LinkedIn, and on her resume was actually like her resume that was on LinkedIn that you would click on.
Yeah.
Was actually all messed up. Like it was like it would.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that it would automatically install like a virus.
I click on those all the time.
Yeah, it would automatically install a virus, and we'd get into their system.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can do that anymore. I honestly haven't tried, but like I heard so many LinkedIn scams that like the people aren't real, and they're promising things, or it's just not real.
Yeah.
And I think there's like hundreds and millions I think there's like millions of fraudulent LinkedIn accounts.
Yeah, and it's become kind of pitch fest already.
Very pitch fest.
It's pitch fest now. There's like fitness people like pitching LinkedIn to CEOs and directors and things like that. So, I mean, for me, that was like my lifeblood. Now it's like I'm getting lost in the shuffle. So,
Right.
And now we have scammers on top of that. kind of watering it down. So
yeah, we used to actually also get paid to like see if we could, I mean, this is before COVID, like get into an actual like company's office, like tailgate. And then like from tailgating, which is easy for like a woman to like go in and be like, oh, like, can you just let me in? Or just like not even say it, just like walk in with everyone. And then we'd see where we could, like what information we could get and where we could go.
Yeah.
And like, could we even get into like the data center and like play around.
And plug something in.
Yeah.
So that's ethical hacking, is that
Yeah.
called? Okay. So that's...
It's that one's more social engineering, not ethical hacking.
Okay.
Because hacking still involves like hacking. Ethical hacking is like you are hired by a company to try to hack into their system, like legally, and see where their vulnerabilities are. There's also a thing called bug bounty where like companies will literally say, hey, if you can get in to like certain systems, we'll give you this amount of money to get into this system, and then you have to tell us how you get in.
Yeah.
So that's like a form of ethical hacking too, where you're like, it's like a bounty program, but for like computer bugs or viruses, like not viruses, but computer bugs on their system.
Yeah, and I think the government uses that when they catch someone.
Yeah.
So you could do 20 years, or you could try to be an ethical hacker for us. So
Yeah.
Of course, easy choice there.
Very easy choice, yeah.
So, okay, so we've covered most of the personal security, but let's talk about your programs, where people can find you.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to direct everyone to this free course because they always ask me what to do in cyber, and then they say, I don't know. And I say, okay, well, do this, and then let me know.
Yeah. So I have a free course. I also have created, which hasn't come out yet, and also the new free course is coming out in like a month or so. So just an FYI. I know the other one's pretty old, but it still works. I'm going to have a questionnaire that people can take. It's pretty long. I wanted it to be long because I want people to actually like it to be useful.
Yeah.
And the questionnaire really like helps people understand what area they want to get into. So after you finish it, it'll say, hey, like based on your responses and what you want, it seems like you'd be better at ethical hacking or attack and pen or access management or all that stuff. So the intro course and the questionnaire will all be free. And then I'm also launching my own like online boot camps that are like very cheap. Like I'm so tired of seeing people getting completely exploited by all these terrible online boot camps. So it's going to be like $300 to $500, maybe $600 depending on the course. And from there they can they can choose wherever they want to go.
What will be some of the things you're going to cover on that?
Oh, everything. So those ones specifically specialize. Like the reason why I wanted to create these courses is because the courses right now don't give you the skills you need to actually get a job, like the skills that are needed on your resume.
Right.
So these courses are helping you build a portfolio for that specific area of cyber. And I'm also working with, like I told you at the beginning, like an AI kind of recruiting company platform where you're able to practice your interview skills, and it also pairs you and can help you get jobs on this AI portal. So it all works together. So it's going to give you the skills that you need. It's going to give you the soft skills that you need. You can keep practicing your interviews, and it also gives you like jobs, so you can like start funneling into jobs.
Well, real quick, how does that work? How does the AI interview work? Is it like a bot asking questions and they grade you? Wow.
Yeah, so it's like on your computer, you sign up. It's like, I think it's like $79 or something, maybe it's $100. And it'll ask you 6 questions. Most of them are like entry-level cyber questions and or personal questions. And it will, based on your response, it will tell you like your confidence level, like your clarity, like overall how well you did. And then it will tell you how to improve. But you'll get a score from that, and that score helps you get like, you're gonna get ranked compared to everyone else on the platform. So if you're like the highest one, then you have a better chance of getting entry-level roles because these people are saying, okay, you have a good resume and you clearly know how to articulate and are doing well. Also, companies can specifically say, hey, we actually want someone that's more confident and more like coherent with cybersecurity terms. And companies can also determine what questions they want too. So they can like pick the questions.
Wow.
And so it's like a really, really cool, it's called Cyber Job Central. I'm like super excited about it. But it's AI based because right now there's no way of really filtering out all of the entry-level applicants.
Yeah, and it's a major problem for people. I'm always like, I basically deal in mid to senior level jobs.
Right.
So it's always difficult to give them advice on getting that. They're like, hey, what do you have for me? I'm like, they don't come to me for those.
Yeah.
You know, they just get them on their own because, you know, and that's a great tool for them. So.
Yeah, and the other thing is you can retake it. Like you can keep practicing, and you can then keep increasing your score. So we can also see on the back end like who's really like eager to like get a job and like fix it and train, and you know, because they get a whole output of like, here's how you can improve. So who's actually actively trying to improve their scores?
Yeah.
So it's a really cool thing. So that's one thing is like whoever needs to get a job in cyber, like I'm trying to create that entire funnel because I think it's very broken. I'm also working with the U.S. government right now to fix the gap between companies saying that they need entry-level jobs and then not actually recruiting entry-level roles, which is a whole issue in itself. So that's a longer play. And then the other thing is if you don't want a job in cyber and you're just like, I don't even know how to be safe. Like I get questions all the time. Like I just bought a Nest and like, I don't know how to set it up securely. Or I have an app coming out at the end of March, ideally, hopefully, if it all goes to plan, that it's literally kind of like a Google, but for like security. So it will give you can search any app, any website, and it'll give you a high level overview of like security concerns, privacy concerns, and then like implementation tips.
Yeah.
Because I get asked all the time.
What's that process like for you? You're outsourcing the development of that app? Are you partnering with someone?
So I was going to develop the app myself, and then I was like, no, I can outsource. So I've partnered with a team in India, and that's incredible, and they've been helping me build that app. For the actual content in the app, I've had 10 amazing interns that have helped me build all the content out. And the interns are also helping me build and create the courses as well, because they're all entry level themselves, so they know it's going to be good. So yeah, it's all been created, and we're reviewing it now. It's ideally, hopefully, launching in March.
Wow. Okay. So we have the free courses.
Yeah.
We have the AI interview app. We have the educational app on security. What else did I miss?
That's pretty much it. And then we have more like in-depth like skills training. And then the last thing I want to do is like a kids cybersecurity show. Like more like think about Schoolhouse Rock, but like teaching kids like at a basic level like what tech is and how to be safe.
Yeah.
So that's like actually I think there's a meeting right now. Like we're seeing if we can get funding for it. So.
Wow. That's great because it's not just the boomer that clicks on anything. You give your 4-year-old your phone and then a bad text pops up and they click on it.
Yeah,
right?
well, and we're getting the app, we're given like literally technology at such a young age and no one understands how it works, how to be safe, how to use it.
Right.
And we could make this so fun. Like it's like, I think kids are very intrigued with technology right now. Like the coding games and stuff are like really popular now to do. So I really just want to have like a fun way of like bringing that education to light at a young age.
Yeah. Okay, well.
There's so much.
Thanks again for coming in. It was great to finally meet you. You can follow her at cybersecurity_girl.
Yep.
That's on all platforms.
Unfortunately, that's only on Instagram. All the other ones are cybersecurity girl, like no space or underscore on TikTok and YouTube.
Someone grab the.
I'm working on it with Instagram, but.
Yeah. So give her a follow. She gives great advice on obviously the personal security and also some good career advice as well. So, Caitlin, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love to be here.
And Jobber Nation, we'll catch you next time.
Bye, guys.